Well, folks, what you're looking at on screen is absolute perfection. Mega Man X is probably up there as one of my most played games ever, just behind the original Super Mario Bros. And Contra. And the PSP version, called Mega Man Maverick Hunter X, which came out in 2005, was not as good. But it was still pretty great and worth giving a try, especially if you're looking for something with expanded story and lore. So, considering how most mobile devices circa 2011 could kickstomp the PSP to the curb, nonetheless, the pathetic power of the Super Nintendo in comparison, I'm pretty sure a mobile version would be just as good as the Super Nintendo, maybe even be able to battle it one-on-one with the PSP version, right? Wrong! This game's a load of poo, and I'm here to talk about it. I will give the mobile version credit for one thing. It spells out the plot much better than the Super Nintendo did. The SNES was more concerned about letting us know who X is, that we don't know what he's fighting against and why. This, although it doesn't tell us much about X, does tell us about the war he is fighting. Alright, I'll go over it again for those who don't know. Basically, X is the last robot that Dr. Light built before he died. Unlike his original Mega Man, X can function like a regular human being in society. However, Light at the last moment realizes he might have built a Pandora's box. So instead of releasing him to the world, he sticks him in a container that will test his morality and seals him away. Skip several centuries and an archaeologist named Dr. Kane stumble upon Light's lab and releases X. X, being a good person and a pacifist, quickly befriends Dr. Kane, and Kane sees that a whole race of beings like X could benefit the world, and decides to ignore Light's warning and mass-produce robot clones of X called Reploid. The problem is that they're not as well built as X, and they go haywire and start hurting people. So, Kane builds a new line of heavily armored Reploids called Maverick Hunters to hunt Reploids that hurt people, and they will be led by an unstoppable Reploid named Sigma, who Kane has built so well that he can't possibly go Maverick. Guess what happens? Sigma goes Maverick and takes the entire Maverick Hunter forces with them and turns them on humanity, who are defenseless against Sigma's onslaught. The pacifistic X sees the genocide playing out before him, and feeling guilty that his creation led to all this mess, decides to take up arms to fight Sigma's uprising as a Maverick Hunter. The story sticks close to the SNES as far as dialogue goes, with a few extra lines here or there, but that doesn't really matter too much. The story is decent for an SNES, with a load of backstory never told in the actual game, and the mobile kinda keeps up with that version of the story. If you really want to understand the story, you either have to look it up in the instruction booklet for the original Super Nintendo, or watch the Deus Sigma anime, which was meant to actually be a backstory for a new continuity for Mega Man X, but it still does a pretty good job of explaining the story of the original Mega Man X and is worth watching. Talk about the graphics first. Why? Because at first glance you're saying, okay, so it's not Maverick Hunter X, but it is trying to be an HD upscaling of the original Mega Man X. What could be so bad about it? Well, first, let's talk about the animation. Several frames of animation are missing from X. It makes it look janky as hell when he walks. But no, it gets worse. You know, the SNES loaded all these stages in at once. There was no scene skipping or scrolling move to another scene like there was in the original Mega Man series, and all the action was done seamlessly. The stages seemed whole and connected. It made the stages non-stop action-packed. This version on a much more powerful piece of hardware can't load the whole stages in. No, you have to cross borders, and it loads the next area in kind of quickly with no even animation transition, kind of like the original Mega Man games did. To make matters worse, you can't go backwards either. This cuts off the exploration completely, and again, makes it feel even more janky. The good news is at least the backgrounds don't suck, and despite animation frames missing, the game does run halfway smoothly. Oh, I should mention other downgrades, including the characters' mouths no longer animate when talking in the bare basic font. It's not bad looking per se, but when you compare it to the Super Nintendo font, no contest. The Super Nintendo font wins. This is just lazy. Also, just a small nitpick, but the SNES Vile comes out of an airship that dropped him off before you fight. Here he jumps down and then bounces up after the fight is over. At any rate, I got plenty of things to complain about in the gameplay, so let's just get to it next. Okay, let me get this straight. What makes this port of Mega Man X suck isn't its controls. The controls are not perfect or even great, but I think they're the best we could ask for when it comes to touchscreen controls on a game like this. Touchscreen controls just weren't made for action games like X, but I think Capcom did the best they could, and they do function. Whether or not they function well or not is a matter of opinion, but they do function. Now, what makes this game suck, next to the graphical problems already mentioned, is they forgot a lot of little vital things that make Mega Man X genuinely fun to play. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Just like the Super Nintendo version, X will have to collect heart pieces he can find to increase his health, also armor capsules to give himself new ability. This made for more exploration and allowed X to get more powered up feeling than he could, say, playing the classic Mega Man games. And for the most part, Capcom didn't screw up this time around. All these items are in the same places and are as easy or as hard to find as they always have been. No, the thing they screwed up are the little changes that go on in a stage. For example, in the original Super Nintendo, Beat Chill Penguin and Flame Mammoth stage will now be frozen over, making it easier to get around and to get to this heart piece. Not here. Flame Mammoth stage will always be on fire. So they changed it so the heart is always on a platform. What a cop-out. And a way to really discourage exploration as well as experimentation when it comes to the boss order. That said, it's not like they did a dumb thing and left out the escape unit so you can escape from stages you already beat, so you can go back and explore and collect stuff you might have missed the first time around, or get a needed item. I mean, they didn't completely cut that out. Oh my god, they forgot the escape unit. You can't escape from stages you already beat, so yeah, need an item to get something? Well, now you have to play the whole stage, just for coming back to collect that item. Well, at least you don't have to fight the boss again. Oh my god, you have to refight bosses again too. Why the heck did they do this? It makes going around and collecting the pieces to power up X harder to get and just a real pain. That explains it. There is a reason why I haven't reviewed or played many mobile games. It's not the touchscreen control, it's the fact that they're all after my wallet and the vast majority of them are just future vaporware. Mega Man X, despite his age, is probably going to end up that way sooner or later. But until then, it can still come back after my wallet with needless DLC and microtransactions to get all that armor that's easy enough just playing the game. How lazy or bad at this game do you have to be to stoop into paying several extra dollars just to power X up when the power-ups are in the game and easy enough to get to? God, I hate mobile games. Well, they didn't make any additions to the soundtrack, but they didn't subtract any from it either. It's the Mega Man X soundtrack ported right from the Super Nintendo, and it's still one of the best soundtracks to a video game ever. The rest of the game may be ass, but I can still enjoy the soundtrack at least. Anyways, do I recommend Mega Man X on iOS? And now even on Android? Yeah, you guys thought you could escape this shit, but Capcom found a way to give it to you Android folks too. Anyways, the answer is hell no. It's not the worst Mega Man X game, it's still more fun and enjoyable to play than X7, but it's a piss poor port of X. You're telling me an iPhone 4, which would be the most current around the time this was released, did not possess 238 kilobits of VRAM to make sure that the stage is loaded properly? Because that's all the Super Nintendo had. 28 kilobits of VRAM and managed to run this game just fine. Meanwhile, the iOS running on vastly more powerful hardware has to give me these stage splits and stops. That's just bullshit. And when you go through them, you can't even backtrack. And they're not run cleverly like the original Mega Man games. When they scroll, they're a hard blink and you go to a new screen. Things like that just show how poor this port was, this experience is, and it should just be skipped in my opinion. You're better off putting the original X Legacy Collection on your wish list and paying a few dollars more when it's on sale. You get an actual good version of Mega Man X Plus 2 and Mega Man X4. You can skip Mega Man X3, but it's still better than this iOS version I just played. Like I said, just skip this. It's just not worth playing on mobile. I don't care how bored you are. Anyways, this is Tommy the Game Master thanking you for watching this. Let me know if you played this stinker, and please leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Also, check out my original review of Mega Man X from 8 years ago.